Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. Today we are looking at the trade paperback Batman Gates of Gotham. This came out around 2012. The storyline takes place um, with Dick Grayson as Batman. It collects Gates of Gotham 1 through 5, Detective Comics Annual 12, and Batman Annual 28. I'm not sure why the annuals are listed, but maybe, I didn't read them individually. I read the trade. So, yeah, overall, I really liked the story. I thought it was really well written. Scott Snyder did a great job with it. Him and Kyle Higgins wrote it. And the art was by Trevor McCarthy, Graham Nolan, Dustin Nagan, and Derek Donovan. I thought the inking and the coloring was really good, but the art style really didn't do it for me. I'm not a fan of the way this artist draws mouths, because when you see people scream, it looks really exaggerated and cartoonish, and it really detracts from the storyline. It's more of a dark, gritty, historical kind of drama. This guy's getting revenge for something that happened 100 years ago, and he's got this cool steampunk armor, and he's called the Architect, and he's a really cool villain, got a lot of depth to the character, a lot of reasons for what he's doing, and it really is detracted by the fact that everybody's mouth looks like it's unhinged like a snake. So I didn't care for that at all, but the fight scenes were good overall. There's a few parts that were a little silly, like Batman trying to hold a bridge together with just the cable from his grappling gun. I didn't care for that. The fact that Bruce Wayne wasn't the Batman in the story really didn't matter too much. Dick Grayson's kind of a natural heir to the cowl, and they reference that Bruce is off doing something somewhere else. It's not really explained, but that's okay. Red Robin was good. I like Tim Drake, but I don't care for Damian. I think he's a whiny, bratty kid who really needs a butt kicking, and I really think that character would realistically have been killed by now because he's reckless and he tends to take a lot of foolish risks that normal people would get killed for taking. So, and the only reason he doesn't die in this story is because Cassandra, the Black Bat, saves him. So, yeah, I don't care for that character, and I think that he probably would have been killed by his own foolishness by now. So I didn't care for that. I don't like him in anything else. I haven't read anything where he was a good character, but I've been out of the comics game for a while, so might be an unfair assessment. But yeah, overall, this was a really fun story. I think it was really, really well written. It had a lot of cool history stuff. Had some great pinup looking art that would make really cool posters. But the actual sequential art itself was, in my opinion, a little lacking, mostly because of the way people's mouths were drawn. It just breaks the immersion and really kind of took me out of it. I don't care for that style. I thought it was a little lazy looking, and the anatomy just doesn't work, so it doesn't quite mesh for me. And the other thing I didn't like is the backup story of the Night Runner. I thought was really pointless because it had nothing to do with the main story. Nothing at all. It is also written and drawn by the same people, and I just don't see the point of it. This kid gets beat up by some cops for protesting and being in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's a really stupid scene where he gets beat up, and of course, the cops are bad guys. So then they reference that there was this friend of his tried to do a terror attack and got himself killed, and he's upset about it. Well, your kid tried to murder some cops at the police station. What'd you expect? And so he goes running and around doing like stupid parkour stuff and becoming more militant. And of course, he is, you know, he's they're in Paris, and he's of course a Muslim immigrant. So we have to work in the diversity higher aspect, and he's just a walking stereotype. There's no real depth to the character. He's just some PC, imaginary, pure-hearted Muslim, sort of the noble savage thing from Indian times. It's at that level of insulting, in my opinion. I thought it was a really, really shameless attempt to get another diversity character in there and put him in a Batman costume, and he becomes this pseudo Batman in France, and it's really stupid in my opinion. It's a lazy character development. and a shameless attempt to work yet another PC character in with this ham-fisted social justice method that really it could have been done well, but they made it a backup story when it could have been a much larger thing on its own because it has nothing to do with Gates of Gotham, and they wedge it in here to kind of preach some diversity nonsense when it could have been a much more interesting miniseries in its own right instead of this forced in diversity nonsense, and it makes it look like a token. It's that tokenism all over again, with just like Marvel's doing right now, and it's really lazy. So Gates of Gotham was a great storyline. That don't bother with the backup story. It was stupid. The art's terrible. It's incredibly bad in the Night Runner. I didn't care for most of it in Gates of Gotham. The outfit on the architect looked really cool. I really like that. I'd like to see the character come back. I thought it was incredibly well written, but otherwise, it just the art was just awful, and the backup story was silly. But that'll do it for this one. As always, thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.